Most of us have heard the quotes that our people perish for the lack of knowledge, and that it's the truth that will set us free. Those two quotes have been stated so often that they're now often regarded as just cliches. But they're not just cliches. We do perish for not knowing the truth. Unlike most people that have the right to believe whatever they choose to believe, that's a luxury that the oppressed does not have. There's a profound exception to that rule when it comes to the oppressed. The oppressed must function based upon what is actually true in order to liberate ourselves. Because if our understandings of our plighted condition are flawed, then all of our liberating remedies and strategies that stem from those misunderstandings will also be flawed. We must gain an accurate understanding of our plighted condition in order to liberate ourselves. It's necessary in order to develop the proper counter strategies that are necessary to liberate ourselves. This is why white oppressive forces keeps our understandings of our plighted conditions flawed by keeping our communities drowning in lots of false information in regards to our plighted condition. The African American population is now more confused and divided than at any previous time in history. Just look at the facts as they truly are. During the 1960s, African Americans' unified protest against the U.S. system of white supremacy was unprecedented, and it still remains unrivaled by any other group in U.S. history. During the 1960s, African Americans unanimously agreed that white oppressive forces were our worst enemies. Today, millions are insisting that it's ourselves that are our worst enemies. We are also more confused about our identity and origin than at any previous time in history. During the 1960s, African Americans unanimously agreed that we all came from Africa. Today, millions are now insisting that we're not from Africa, but that we are instead the true indigenous Americans. They believe that to be true, although millions of African Americans have taken DNA testings that have scientifically confirmed our African identity. And although the DNA found within the bodily remains of ancient Americans does not match ours, those bodies actually matches those who are currently recognized as Native Americans. Millions of African Americans are also insisting that we're the true Jews found within a Bible that was brutally beaten into the blood-soaked minds of our enslaved ancestors by their ungodly enslavers. Given these facts, to claim that the Bible contains our true story is in fact ridiculous. And yet millions of African Americans believe that to be true. And no, the Bible was not written by Ethiopians. The Bible was in fact written by ungodly Romans in the year 325 AD that routinely engaged in massive orgies, wife swapping, and death sports. The Bible did not reach Ethiopia until the year 341. That's 16 years after the Romans wrote the Bible and created a false religion. Those who don't research facts will always fall for lies. We are not the people found in the Bible written by our most ungodly enemies. A Bible written by history's proven most ungodly group of people is totally disqualified from containing the true words of God. Many of us are also now saying that we're being controlled by the silly Willie Lynch slave syndrome myth. Our collective condition has nothing to do with the Willie Lynch myth. The Willie Lynch letter was actually written in 1970 by the late Dr. Kwabena Ashanti. He confirmed it's a complete work of fiction. He described those symptoms noted within the letter based upon behaviors he witnessed amongst our people during more contemporary times. This is why the letter appears so accurate. This is also why when experts examined the letter, they found that it contained modern words that are not consistent with its allegedly 1700 published date. We also know that our condition has nothing to do with the Willie Lynch myth, because that silly myth presents what would in fact be the least effective and least plausible method used for controlling generations of millions of people. It's simply not how true brainwashing is achieved. Not at all. True brainwashing requires a system that's being constantly reapplied and reinforced upon a targeted population in order to remain effective. If not, its effectiveness would lessen with each new generations, not continuing or even worsening as we're witnessing among our people. Our condition has nothing to do with the silly Willie Lynch myth. Millions also now believe that we made the N-word ours and that using it now empowers us. That's the most idiotic belief of them all. The truths are both the opposite on both accounts. It was actually through negative media social engineering that white oppressive forces manipulated millions of us to self-identify ourselves by the N-word. And doing so actually negatively impacts us at a psychological level. The reason why they manipulated us to self-identify ourselves by the N-word is because to subjugate and control a large targeted population, the first step is to neutralize their alpha males, aka those possessing warrior spirits. These are the black males that are psychologically wired to protect our women and our communities. White social engineering scientists neutralize the African American black males by socially engineering millions to self-identify ourselves by the N-word. This is because words, when repeated often enough, has a power over our subconscious mind. We function based upon the words that we self-identify ourselves as. This is why men that repeatedly call themselves thugs are more likely to engage in a fight than to avoid one. It's also why women that proclaim themselves as being a bitch often become stubbornly unreasonable. Words, when we repeat it often enough, has power over our subconscious minds. We literally function based upon the words we repeatedly call ourselves. When we repeatedly call ourselves by the N-word, this psychologically conditions us to perceive ourselves through a false, inherent, inferior identity that makes us more accepting of our subordinate status within the society dominated by the white culture, the white population. This aids the white society in maintaining a social dominance over black people. As long as we call ourselves by the N-word, we will always remain as subordinates to the white society. When we call each other by the N-word, it also causes us to dehumanize each other. This makes it much easier to mistreat and to even kill each other. They've placed an elaborate spell upon our subconscious mind by manipulating millions of us to self-identify ourselves by the N-word. It's the truth of our plight and condition we must wake up to. When we perceive ourselves by the N-word instead of as Africans, this also divides us from Native Africans. When we Africans in the U.S. are divided from Native Africans, we lose our global numerical advantage and we're stripped of all hopes of ever defeating global white supremacy. When we call ourselves by the N-word instead of as Africans, this also separates us from our unifying African heritage. Without having a based identity to connect to our vast cultural wealth, over time we become further fragmented and we become weaker as a people. We can then be made into anything the white oppressors wants us made into. The African American culture is currently drowning in disinformation. And as a result of this fact, African Americans are now more confused and divided than we were at any previous time in history. Finding the culprits behind this fact isn't hard to figure out. Once you start critically thinking, it's easy. Just critically think and ask yourself, Who controls the information that African Americans receives and most blindly believes? And who benefits most when African Americans are confused and divided? The answer is that what oppressive forces does. White propagandists have intentionally spread lots of false information into the Black communities to divide us. It's how they prevent the unprecedented unified Black protests that occurred during the 1960s from ever occurring again. It's how they prevent it. It's how they subdued the Black Power movement. Our current collective condition is by deliberate design. The hidden history and reason why this was done to the African American population. Here it is. During the 1960s, African Americans unified Black protests against the U.S. system of white supremacy was unprecedented. African Americans confronted it on all fronts. It was confronted through civil disobedient tactics, militant means, nonviolent protests, and with Black lawyers pleading for equality within America's highest Supreme Court. Those strategies resulted in an enactment of many civil rights laws that improved the lives of all minorities. While all ethnic groups possess the ability to bring about real change within the United States, only African Americans have produced such changes. African Americans had also started unifying with other minority groups against the U.S. system of white supremacy. African Americans' unified protest, as I said, still remains unrivaled by any other group in U.S. history. In the face of this unprecedented unified Black protest, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover said that the unification of the American Negro was the greatest threat against the nation. African Americans had therefore unknowingly proven themselves as being the greatest threat against the preservation of the U.S. system of white supremacy. It was determined that something had to be done to erode this unity. This resulted in white propagandists being hired to remedy what was then called the Negro problem. Their mission was to determine our greatest strength and then attack it unrelentingly, and to determine our most exploitable weakness and then exploit it unrelentingly. They determined that our greatest unity, that our strongest strength was Black unity. They now attack it unrelentingly by constantly spreading divisive propaganda into the Black communities. Now, last, but certainly not least, it's no strange occurrence that many Black people are now self-loathing, perceive ourselves as being our own worst enemies, and thinks favorably of Caucasians in spite of such a brutally horrific history of the contrary. These thoughts and this mindset among Black people that clearly benefits the white society are by deliberate design. It was deliberately indoctrinated into the minds of millions of Black people without most of us even realizing it. The white media's unrelenting negative depiction of Black people that amplifies the negative to the point that it distorts our reality is much more than just biased media reporting. It is actually a Black racially demoralizing divide and rule psychological warfare propaganda campaign. Demoralized divide and rule is a method of maintaining control over a large targeted population through unrelenting demoralization in order to create self-hatred and division between the targeted population. It is a well-proven tactic because whenever the oppressed are demoralized, divided, and made self-loathing, this makes the oppressed more easier to control and easier to subjugate, and it makes them more controlling with the oppressor's dominance over their lives. This system is deployed like a massive media marketing campaign that constantly subjects the Black population to receiving only the fraudulent worst narratives about ourselves. Within this system, fraudulent Black racially demoralizing propaganda is being pumped unrelentingly into the unsuspecting minds of the Black population without being challenged nor counterbalanced by an equal amount of Black positive racially affirming information. It works upon the concept that the mind's perceptions can be altered by controlling the information given to it. Its weapon is the message that it carries. It conveys a subliminal message that Black people are now our own worst enemies, and that we therefore need whites to govern over our lives. Moreover, that black people should admire, respect, and trust only whites. This system is extremely effective because when black people are repetitively presented these noted narratives from trusted white media sources, it can be very difficult to resist its implied programming, especially when the propaganda is being told daily and so unrelentingly. With time being unable to refute the constant negative information about ourselves, many black people eventually comes to accept them. This psychological warfare works so well, in fact, that it not only makes black people more compliant with white dominance over our lives, it in fact makes black people even prefer white dominance over our lives. It's the truth of our plight and condition. It is the root of both the feelings of self-loathing, self-hatred, and division that's profoundly affecting the black population. This propaganda campaign is also at the heart of the internalized feelings of superiority that many whites possess. Brothers and sisters, it's time to wake up to our reality. The time of believing in dumb shit is over. Now you know the truth of our plight and condition. One love and peace.